welcome back to the woods. We've been up in our little basher doing a set of episodes. It's been really nice to come out and actually film. We hadn't really had a chance with the weather.
A bit of sunlight, a bit of vitamin D.
Vitamin D. You don't want to get rickets, do you?
That'd be terrible, wouldn't it?
It'd be awful. And we just finished up our chat on hydration and carrying water at Mill Sims Weekenders at Skirmishes. And we thought we'd actually take the opportunity to go through some historical water bottles and kind of how they've developed and what they've been used for. So Gadge is obviously a bit of a military collector, so he's got a few interesting specimens out for us. So we're going to go kind of in date order.
Sort of. So if you consider that in modern warfare, soldiers issued uniforms have also tended to be issued water bottles. So in the American Civil War, quite often they're like wood. You know, before the previous have been leather, etc. But when you get to the 20th century, the metal water bottle is really the thing because it's rugged. You can use it to cook on in an emergency. And in World War I and World War II, the British Army had these odd, sort of rectangular-shaped bottles with a cork stopper, covered in sort of a serge to keep the water cold and stop it freezing. And as you can see, it gets rusty. That cork gets a bit decrepit. That string can get lost. Getting those in and out off your belt kit is a real challenge set by necessities.
So when did this come in?
Well, that's a World War I design for the actual bottle. The cradle itself is in as more kind of World War II. So they've been around since the turn of the century, pretty much.
Okay.
And
what's it made of?
It's just enamelled steel.
Enamelled steel. Okay.
Yeah. Now inside there, the enamel can be rusted and all sorts. You don't want to drink out of one of these.
Trying to clean that would be
absolute
nightmare. And it goes.
Yeah. I have used them before after sterilising them well with like multiless fluid, etc. But again, you want to be careful with them because they are over 100 years old, some of them. Now, a lot of the kit for World War II was great, but this water bottle was clearly shocking. In 1943, the Lethbridge Commission looks at the British kit of the British soldier and goes, that's rubbish, that's rubbish, that's rubbish, let's change this, let's change that. And you get what's called the 44 pattern water bottle, which is probably the birth of the modern water bottle in British Army.
Yeah.
The US used a very similar one. As you can see, it's no longer covered. It's got a much wider,
much
proper
better.
metal screw-top lid, a little rubber seal on it.
So get a brush and some other stuff in there.
Yeah, you can see what's in there when you need to. Yeah. Holds a lot more. It's easy to get in and out of a pouch.
So the pouch design, we'll show you a picture. Pouch design went from this cradle, this ridiculous cradle. You probably needed a mate to get this out.
Yeah.
And actually just something you could get out one-handed.
And it's based very largely on the World War I American bottle at the time. So the whole idea of having a pouch that fits quite nicely, like a little sleeve to get in and out, a bottle with a metal lid or even a Bakelite lid, because plastic wasn't such a thing then. Copied from the US, really, but again, you start seeing this being used very, very late in World War II by very limited numbers, but by the Korean War and moving forwards, it's the standard British Army water bottle. Even to the point when a 58 pattern, which is plastic, it's lighter, it's easier to make.
This is my slightly modified one.
Yeah. Even when that comes in, guys like the Paras, the SAS, etc., are still using those because in a survival situation, you can cook with that.
This plastic water bottle is kind of very similar in shape, size,
they
and everything.
fit the same container. You can put one of those in a 44 pattern carrier and vice versa.
Okay, so these technically replaced these metal ones, but in some units these stayed.
They're just really favoured.
Yeah, and also the pouch for these, it wasn't.
It's a lot easier to get. The only thing that really gets retained a lot as well is the mug. So as you've got just by your leg there, you've got this 58 pattern mug, lovely design, holds quite a lot of fluids. Nice little handle things. The thing is, you can't cook off it if you need to. So people who had one of those that came with a very similar mug, but in metal, would keep that metal mug, even when they're using these plastic bottles, use a combination of the two that suited them.
On my 58 pattern webbing, I've got a pair of Repro 44 pattern water bottle carriers because it's just much easier to get to.
Now, it's worth mentioning that around about the same time in World War II, moving through into the 80s, the Russians are using a very similar design, but much smaller, metal water bottle with a screw top. And then mention that for reasons you'll see later. However, that's dire. The screw top always leaks.
Does it have a little chain on it?
Yeah, the chain always breaks off. It's absolutely terrible. Avoid them like the plague, right? But that's, again, most armies at the time, the US and Korea, the British, the Russians, everyone's going for that metal water bottle with a screw top fastening. That's the pretty much industry standard until plastic bottles come along. So the British get them with 58. In Vietnam, the Americans start using these sort.
And
now,
these are like almost the water bottle.
Yeah, these are the army water bottle.
The army water bottle.
Much,
if you go to a camp store and buy an army water bottle set, you'll be buying something.
And
like
a lot of nations copied this. So a lot of Vietnam reenactors use Greek ones because they look exactly the same, slightly different plastic colour. And both the 58 pattern and this start off having a normal plastic screw top, but then later models you'll notice have this little weird valve in the top, and that's so you can drink wearing a respirator. Because when they were designed, the idea of having a completely covered up thermonuclear battlefield just wasn't really an option. But by the 80s, when they're starting to make these, or the late 70s, this one's a 1973 one.
Okay.
So by 73, they're going, do you know what? I've got my respirator on, I've got my suit on, haven't drank for 8 hours, I'm starting to get a headache.
Yeah.
How do I drink without breathing in all that lovely beta and alpha particles?
Yeah.
And the solution is you pull a hose off your respirator, you plug it in, you hold that upside down, you have a nice refreshing drink, job done.
The whole thing sounds terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely shocking, isn't it? But that, as Tom said, is still the standard for a lot of armies' water bottles. That's pretty much how they're done. And not to be outdone, the Soviets got rid of their horrible, leaky, rusty, nasty thing in the 80s in Afghanistan. Started issuing their airborne forces a horrible, leaky, big white plastic thing that came in a tan sleeve.
It's very tactical, Gadge.
I know it's horrible, isn't it? But look at that, right? Like, just you can look at that and it's going to break. And it's got that lovely chain that they like. It's the Russ, which is exactly what you want next to your water source.
And it makes.
Yeah. And a cup that could probably useful for holding your mouth.
Is that supposed to be a cup?
Yeah, that's the cup. Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it?
So let's talk about the practicalities of retro water bottles.
Well, just trying to get the top of that on then.
So, personally, I wouldn't drink out of anything with a dubious provenance.
Yeah, I wouldn't drink out of anything that was metal and all. Any metal surplus one could have rust or aluminium flakes or any sort of thing in it. I really wouldn't trust. 58 pattern ones I'm kind of okay with. I drank out of enough 58 pattern water bottles that I didn't know where they come from in the reserves, so it makes no difference.
You can buy new ones.
Yeah.
So you may as well buy a new one if you're going to use a 58 pattern, and then and then I'd still sterilise it with Milton before I drank out of it. You can buy. I probably wouldn't even use an historical US one because you can buy new ones. And
my Vietnam kit has 4 new camp shop special ones of those in because they look exactly the same at the distances I'm playing Airsoft at. If someone can tell me that my water bottle isn't a Vietnam issue one from 1050, credit to them, they've got better eyesight than I
guess if you're at a living history event, you can put in authentic ones. But at an Airsoft event, you're not going to break anyone's immersion by using something that's not going to give you food poisoning.
But I think the reality here, looking at military ones, is that as an Airsofter starting out and getting your kit, if you don't go for that camelback option we mentioned in the previous episode, you're probably going to go to Anchor or JJ's or some surplus store like that, and you're going to see a Chinese-made water bottle like that, and it's going to be about $1.99, and it's going to do everything you need it to do for an open day.
Absolutely fine.
Quite often, it'll even come with a pouch that clips to your belt.
Which you then throw away because they're utterly rubbish.
Yeah.
In fact, I bought 4 for my Vietnam kit and threw all the pouches away. These were just utterly horrid Chinese camo.
Yeah.
But the water bottles themselves were absolutely fine. And again, bit of Milton, sorted, done. I guess, a 44. These are quite expensive now, aren't they? Probably.
Yeah, they can get the real ones. They're even making repro ones to the same
design. Right, okay.
It's also worth. We keep mentioning Milton, so for those who don't know, Milton's is like a baby bottle sterilising fluid. It's like a very mild, bleachy kind of solution. Anything you get that isn't yours from factory fresh, I'd probably give it a rinse. Camelback users, again, every couple of gaming days, give it a rinse through.
Even then, with a factory fresh one, I would probably
give it a rinse through.
You just don't know where it's been and what's happened to it. Just be safe. And again, even if you only keep fresh water in your water bottles, I will dry them out. I'll empty them, dry them out after every weekend, and then every couple of weekends they'll get Miltoned as well.
Yeah, I think my wife gets really fed up of finding the dish rack in the kitchen. That's 2 or 3 water bottles like that, and I'm draining out.
So, but I think any dubious. Now, there are some slightly weird and wonderful water bottles out there that have been through movie prop houses.
Yeah.
Not a good idea to drink out of those because the extras in the films they were used in probably weed in them. Not a great idea. I was told this by someone at some point who'd worked in the industry, and he went, just don't ever. If any suspicion have come out of anything to do with movies, because the extras are standing around for 5 hours, they can't go to the loo, so they'll have a wee in their in their water bottle.
The other one to avoid is the Yugoslavian canteen. I've never used myself, but I've been told that the cooking pot water is so infuriating that you'll never want to ever try and drink out of anything ever again, because it will just ruin your day. Some things aren't that well designed. That's why this, and this still get sold in camping stores today, even though they're 60-year-old designs or more. It's because they work.
It's a bit like the jerry can, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which was just
No one's made a better one.
No one's
I
made a
think.
better one. That's been going since World War II. That's for petrol. It's fantastic design.
And water.
Actually. And water, yeah, absolutely fantastic design. You can still buy, but you can buy plastic versions now. So that's a kind of whistle-stop tour through historical water bottles. What water bottles do you use? Do you use historical ones? In fact, do you even drink out of them? Please let us know in the comments.
Maybe you just use one of these like me.
Or just drink Monster like Gadge does. You run around in the bushes in a minute like a crazy man. So thanks for watching AATV. I've been your host, Tom Anvil Hibberd, along with my co-host,
Gareth Gadge Harvey.
That's him. If you'd like to help support this project so we can buy more historical water bottles, because we love them so much, you can join our Patreon scheme, keep the channel going, buy one of our fantastic t-shirts. Most importantly, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.